Hello, my name's Serena, and in this presentation we'll be speaking about the digestive system and human nutrition. In this PowerPoint we'll be focusing on the structure and functions of the digestive system, the processes of mechanical and chemical digestion and what that means, the optimal conditions for enzymes as well, and the constituent food groups of a balanced diet and provide their sources, so where you get them from. So the digestive system is one of the main bodily functions, and this is how we get our energy, nutrients, minerals, vitamins, everything that we need from the food that we eat. It's also known as the gastrointestinal tract, and it is just one long tube that goes from the mouth all the way down to the other end at the anus. So what we'll be doing is following a process of food that will start at the mouth, becoming a bolus in the upper part of the digestive system, coming down, being digested in the stomach where it will become chyme. I will touch on all these words throughout the presentation, into the small intestine where it's absorbed, and eventually excreted out into the anus as a waste product with anything that we've already taken from there. So starting at the mouth, this is where we will use our teeth, our incisors, our canines to mechanically rip that food apart, turn it into much smaller pieces ready to be swallowed. Whilst it's doing that, the tongue is mixing that food with saliva. Saliva contains enzymes such as amylase, which just help to break down those carby foods really thick chunks and soften it up, turning that food into a bolus, which is much easier to swallow. This process is known as mastication. We have three salivary glands within the mouth, that is the sublingual gland, the parotid gland, and the submandibular. Now the saliva is normally activated through the smell or sight of food. Now it goes into the pharynx, so all that mechanical chewing of the food, that was all voluntary. As soon as you swallow that food, anything from there is an involuntary action. Your body will just do it naturally. So that bolus is pushed down into the esophagus. Now as it does this, the main important thing in this area is to know the epiglottis will fold down, block off the larynx, and stop it from food being swallowed into your airway, preventing you from choking. Then into the esophagus, which is just a long tube that goes from your pharynx down to your stomach, bypassing your diaphragm. It's about 25 centimeters long, obviously depends how tall you are, and this is where that bolus is moved down through the esophagus. Now the esophagus is quite a muscular, it's got that fibrous elastic tissue, that's how it is made, and this is so that it can mould to the size of the bolus and the food that we are eating. Now unless it's a liquid, which will just go through naturally with gravity, if it needs a bit of help, it will use a motion called peristalsis. It's like a wave motion, just pushing that food further down towards the stomach. Now in the digestive system we have a couple of accessory muscles such as the salivary glands, but we also have the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. Now the liver is here, it lives up in the right hypochondriac region of the abdominal, and this is where bile is produced. Bile is a mix of water, salts and cholesterol and bilirubin, and is used to digest fat. That bile is then sent to the gallbladder, which lives just underneath here, and that is where it is stored until it needs to be used. Just showing that again, there is the gallbladder, and that bile will be sent through the gallbladder ducts into the small intestine, where it is then helped to break down even more, ready for absorption. And then we go to the stomach. So starting here is our food is up here in the esophagus, and it's pushed into the stomach. The stomach is a very muscular organ. It's very muscular because it will do a churning motion to kind of help mix that food and break it down even more. So that's a bit of a mechanical process, and then it will also be mixed into the acid, the stomach acid. Now gastric juices is a mix of water, hydrochloric acid, mineral salts, and enzymes, particularly pepsin, will break down proteins. Now this process altogether can take 2 to 4 hours. This is why after a while, after you've just had a big meal, you can start to feel quite tired because all of your other energy is focusing on getting that food digested. Now from here, that soft bolus turns into a chyme. That chyme is then sent through into the small intestine via the duodenum. So the duodenum is part of the small intestine. The small intestine is 6-7 meters in length, and it will then go into the rest of the intestine, the jejunum and the ileum. Now that chyme mixed with that bile and those other pancreatic and intestinal juices becomes a much more alkaline solution ready for absorption. So it can travel all the way through here. Now it is good to note that the small intestine is full of lots of villi, like little fingers on the inside of the tubes, just to help spread that surface area to absorb all the nutrients and vitamins and minerals it can. Now if any of those vitamins and minerals are missed in the small intestine when that chyme is sent through into the large intestine, The large intestine can absorb any extra vitamins that it can. Now this is a much smaller tube, but it's much thicker, it's much more muscular, and that's because it will start to convert any of the waste products that we have from this food into feces, and it will remove any extra water so that we're getting as much hydration as possible. And that process happens throughout the ascending, the transverse and the descending colon into the sigmoid colon, and any feces that is created from that is stored in the rectum. Now the rectum and the anal canal, again, this is where this temporary storage of feces until it is excreted and all those waste products are left, then leave the body. And that is your digestive system from start to finish. Like I said, it's just one big tube. So as previously mentioned, so this is our ingestion, where we eat the food. Our digestion, mixed with the mechanical and the chemical breakdowns, I'll go into that a little bit more in just a moment, is absorbed into the body and then excreted. So in a bit more detail, like I said, that mechanical point, mixing that food with the saliva, becomes mastication, is known as mastication. That is just that mix of the whole kind of process, and that's obviously the mechanics in the mouth. Then you have the mechanics in the stomach. Again, this is that churning motion, happens every sort of like 4 seconds, just mixes it, churns it more, and that is all of your mechanical parts of digestion. And then we move on to chemical. So the chemical is focusing on the enzymes, where food is broken down into a more molecular level. So some of the enzymes we have specifically in the mouth, we have amylase that breaks down those carbohydrates. It's about 37 degrees C and a very neutral pH. Then we've got our pepsin, breaks down proteins in a much more acidic environment, and our amylase and our lactase, which breaks down lactose found in milks, etc. And that is all in the small intestine. Now we're moving on to our constituent food groups. This is a lot of this is known as the Eat Well guide. This is all the things that we need within our diet to have a full healthy lifestyle, a full healthy diet needed. So we have our meats, fish and alternatives, which are a source of our proteins, our cereals, breads and potatoes, our carbohydrates, our fruit and vegetables with our fibre and antioxidants, and our milk, dairy products has our calcium, and our oils and fats. Now that protein is used for muscle growth, repair, fluid balance and metabolism. So that's our meat, our fish, our poultries, eggs, nuts, beans and pulses as well. And then we move on to our carbohydrates. It's our cereals, our breads, our potatoes, and our rice and pasta. Normally whole grain options are usually a better source, but these is all your energy for your working muscles. Don't mind banging, I've got some workmen in, and this is where it will be a slow release of energy throughout the day. Then we move on to our fruits and vegetables. That's our fibre and our antioxidants. Now fruit and vegetables can be fresh, canned, frozen, dried or juiced. Juice is in moderation just because of how sugary that juices can be. And those antioxidants are there, and they just help your immune system and such. So that reduces blood cholesterol, aids digestion, has vitamins and minerals, and generally fruit is very full of water, so it's very low in calories, so you can actually eat pretty much as you want. Then we've got our dairy milk products. These are a good source for calcium, which helps your bone health, your muscle contraction, the calcium, proteins, vitamins and minerals. Now you should probably contain 2 to 3 times of this daily. Choose low fat options if you can when it comes to calcium, because a lot of it can be quite fatty. And then we move on to our oils, spreads and fats. Now fats are split into 3 different types. So we've got our saturated fats, which are known as unhealthy fats, our unsaturated fats, which are healthy fats, and our trans fats, which are very bad. Just very bad, unhealthy fats. This is your cakes, your cookies, things that really will clog up your system and can lead to some quite dangerous health conditions if you consume too much of them. So do try and stick to plant-based fats such as your olive oil and sunflower oil, and just limit your saturated fats if you can. Now, portion control in general, so we want to be trying to eat 5 portions of fruits and veg a day, 3 portions of starchy foods, 2 to 3 portions of protein foods, so your meat and your fish, 2 to 3 portions of dairy alternatives, normally your milk you have with your cereal in the morning, and small amounts of unsaturated oils and spreads. However, it is still needed for your system. So we want to be having about 55% carbohydrates, 15% proteins, 10% unsaturated fats and 20% unsaturated fats, and also stay nice and hydrated throughout the day, as this is also needed by our body. So we have covered the following from this last presentation are digestive system components, mechanical chemical breakdowns, optimal conditions for enzymes, constituent food groups and where to get them from, and our portion control. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation. Take care.